hold up. Gotta let y'all in on a little secret here that's not so secret. The beginning part of this video was taken last year when I started the suspension stuff, and then I kind of obviously got caught up in other things and wasn't able to finish this video. So you can see it's green in the background, and I just got back from the beach. Yeah, this was probably June-ish time frame. So yeah, it's June of 2022. Been a little bit since I've done this. So here you are for the ride. Howdy y'all. Got my safety contacts on. Bet y'all hadn't seen me like this. Went to the beach this past week, and you know, you gotta wear sunglasses out there. So I decided to wear my contacts, and we just got back today. So I still got my contacts on. Safety contacts, you know. Protect me from grinder dust and stuff. Just kidding. Don't do that. Don't be an idiot. Anyways, we're going to do some unboxing today. For right now, I got some plans this coming week that I'm going to be going through, y'all. Don't know what to do with my hands. Mainly suspension stuff. Howdy y'all, welcome to the Mayhem's Fablab channel. Alright, so what we're going to do is now make the stands for the axles to be set on at the right height, so they're at right height, and also so we can set pinion angle and such, so that once we get that set, get it centered in our lines, side to side, fore and aft, that axle ain't going nowhere. She's planted. So that from then on, all of our suspension mounts are just put them on, tack them in, take some measurements, put them into the calculator, see if we can adjust it in any way, shape, or form so that we can get the optimal suspension that I want, and that I think will work best for this Jeep. So I'm gonna turn you all around here. I already did a little bit of see there, we got so this piece right here and this piece are both 24 inches in length, and then that piece right there we're gonna cut with the bandsaw to make, here, I'll go out here. And, okay, so we're going to make a stand here tall enough that we can cut a V in it to set the we're going to cut a V like this. That's exaggerated, but cut a V like this on both sides so that when we put it on here, axle sits in there, and the axle is exactly 18.5 inches off the ground. Why 18.5? Well, I'm going to be running a 37-inch tall tire. Half of 37 is 18.5. And that's where I want my axle to sit. So that's my plan. Let's see how we do with it, all right? I don't know how this is going to work, but I hope it's going to work out, because metal's expensive. Okay, so here's the concept of what I'm going to do here. This is my 2x5. That's going to be on the ground. This is going to be my 2x4, 3x4, whatever it is. I don't know. But anyways, I need the center of my axle tube to be 18.5 inches off of the ground. Whoops, sorry. Just waving around here. So I need to find this point where basically the nest of this will be 18.5 inches, or will be, what do we say? This is 2 3/4, so 1 3/8 from the bottom here to here. So what I have, good old mason jar lid, is 2 3/4 inch across right here. So I'm gonna take this and plug it on here wherever I want it. I can put it wherever I need to. Center it up in there, mark my points, and then I can figure out that where I need to cut down here to make it 18.5 inches minus 2 inches for the 2 by 5. Make sense, guys? Good. Good. Let's do it. All right, so I have my cap here marked right here and right here. That is 1 3/8 back. What I'm going to do, measure 1 3/8 back on this. 1. Okay, take this. Grab that across. Then we're going to take a halvesies of this, 4 inches, so a 2er. So basically what we're looking at, this is just a visual representation. This way, this. Right there. When these lines line up, I got my center line here, and then I gotta make the dots line up on either side. That should be center, which that does not look like center. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, so we found center here. So that's representative of the axle tube. This doesn't have to be exact as long as it's touching that line. So that's basically what I'm going to cut out. I'm going to cut all this out. And that's saying that the top of this right here, all things being equal, from here we just take 18 and we just measure from here 18.5 inches down, minus the 2 for the other part, so that would be 16.5 inches. Yeah. That's where I'm going to cut it. Make sense? Bingo. Let's go cut it. Well, howdy, y'all. It's another day. And I failed to remember to charge my phone throughout the day, so I had it inside charging, but I really need to get this project going. Like, you gotta whip that, you know? So, what I did, in the absence of my phone, is get this axle stand ready for the rear axle. I'll show you what I did, how I did it. I don't have any video of me doing it because I was just, but I'll explain it to you. Here we go. All right, here is the rear axle stand. Here, let me zoom out to you. There you go, rear axle stand. So basically what I did, I had our bottom piece here, then I had our two uprights, and I cut this here, V. I used that mason jar cap, found my bottom, drew a line across, or drew a circle that represented the axle tube, cut a tangent line, 45 degrees down, 45 degrees down. Bingo, bango, bongo. There's that. Repeat on this side, repeat on this side, repeat on this side. Okay. Then I marked my centers right here of my side pieces on either side. Centered those up with the center of this piece. Marked them. Burnt them in, just tacks, except for right there. I've welded those in. Tacks, here you go. I didn't really clean the metal other than this right here. Should be plenty fine. If it was structural, I would have definitely cleaned the metal. There's that. Okay. Then I threw the axle up top here. And to find center, I used these brackets back here. This old shock bracket here. It's going to get cut off, but this bracket right here, measured halfway between that. This was, it was 43.5 total, so 21 3/4 to the center. I have my center mark here. And I took this guy here, my laser, put it kind of centered in there. You can feel bottom there. You can just kind of wiggle the bottom. You're trusting that this thing is square, but you know, it's new, so I figure it's probably fairly square. Then I centered up this line right here, which is the center of the laser, with this line. Bingo. We have our center of this piece. Then, hold on, let me get a tape measure. Hard to do here. It's kind of something, oh, I forgot to say, the top plate is at 0-ish. It was at 0 when I started this, but, you know, depends on what I do. Let's see here. Oh, you gonna readjust? Nope, it's 0.4. That's okay. I just want the top plate to be square. I can always adjust pinion angle once I get it in the Jeep. This is just for mock-up and everything to get link lengths and all that stuff. Okay, now, as I was saying before I rudely interrupted myself, hold on. You take this here, and then you shine it. I put that up against the shock mount over there. Shine it. It's 21 and, you know, 21 and 11/16, 21 3/4. As far as I'm concerned, a 1/16 of an inch off center is really good for Mayhem. And I can adjust that too. I just want to get it to where my center is pretty darn center, okay? So after I got this where I needed it, got the top plate level, got it centered on our fixture here, then I did some little whoop over here. Whoops. Can you, oh, you're looking at me. Whoop. And I got some ticky-tackies on there. There you go. So this thing should be good to move underneath the Jeep. Now, one thing I failed to think about when designing this just fantastic specimen of fabrication and ingenious knowledge of axle stand that I have going on here is that an axle's heavy. And if this was a 14 bolt, I Ooh, man, it would have been a heavy son of a gun. But I will probably need someone to help me move this, and I also, obviously, the frame is where it needs to be, and I don't want to be bumping frame, so I want to have someone help me move this, and I don't have someone to help me move this tonight. So that's going to be it for Fabrication Stand with Mayhem tonight. Hopefully we can get on it tomorrow with a friend to help me bring this axle underneath there, and then well, before it goes underneath there, geez, I'm just getting ahead of myself here, guys. I need to remove those. I need to remove these shock mounts. I need to remove this sway bar mount. I actually need to remove these, and I need to order those. Whoops. I need to order a new set of axle mounts, unless I can, I don't know, I might be able to save these. I don't trust myself to, though, so I'll probably just order a new set. And because these are actually further outside of the frame, and the rear brackets I've already tested don't really work that well. I'll probably, you know what guys, I'm gonna get it underneath the frame. This is live action, because this is what goes through Mayhem's brain here. I'm probably gonna get it underneath there, get some stuff tacked, get my upper link mounts tacked. I can probably come in here with a whoa, you're looking at, I can probably come in here with a plasma, just cut it out with a butter knife, you know what I'm saying? After I have these guys in place, I can probably come in there with a plasma and cut most of it out. So, but rear shock mounts, I don't know what I'm doing for rear shock mounts yet, but those are definitely not going to work, because if I do a TJ one, this angle that's like this is actually going to be like this. If I do rear, like a rear cutout, or shock relocation in the rear, I don't know. Like I said, live action. A lot of this is coming as I see it. I have a big plan, but sometimes, this being my first project, I don't have everything planned out to a T. Hopefully on future projects that you guys hang out with me on, I might have these a little bit more in tune, and maybe not like, oh, squirrel, 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 you know. But so what I'm gonna do now is shut y'all down for tonight. Well, howdy y'all. I am working on the suspension today. Okay, you can see I already got my hands dirty a little bit. So I don't know where I've in that hiatus of working on this stuff, I kind of lost track of where I was and filming. So I'm going to tell you where I'm at today. Basically what I have in the front, we're going to be doing a 3-link with a panhard on the old TECHY. And in the rear, we're going to be doing a 4-link, upper triangulated. So all of my brackets are from Barnes 4-wheel drive. Love them. Great quality. Good stuff. All of my control arms, my lowers are all Clayton Gladiator lower control arms. So the front lower control arms are for a Gladiator. And they have I think they're called the Clayton gyro joints, front and rear, which are Johnny joints, kind of, sort of, with a rubber bushing isolator. Rear, same setup. It is Gladiator rear control arms, rear lower control arms, and they are also with the Johnny joints. Reason I picked those is simply because I'm a simple man and I know that Clayton Off-Road is good stuff, and these things I know can take a beating. They are 1/4 inch, quarter wall, 2-inch box tubing. Let me show you. There is the front lowers, and another reason I chose these is they have a bend in them. You can see the bend there. And that, bring the wheel in, helps with tire clearance, especially when you're running stock JK wheels. They have a lot of offset. So yeah, really wanted, let me show you here again. There you go. So have the tire clearance there. Now in the rear, they're straight arms. And as you can see, I've already got some stuff tacked in. I'll go through what I did there. Let's see, where am I at here? Oh, I've cleaned off the axles. Again, all my brackets, frame, and axle are all from Barnes 4-wheel drive. So let me, real quick, go through what we got going on the lowers here. So for the lowers, these are Barnes just standard lower control arm mount. These have a 10-degree tilt in, so you can see from the back. So, whoop, here's the axle. See, they're 10 degrees in. And as such, you can kind of see here, in relation to the frame, they are tilted 10 degrees in. What I did to place these, I got my lower link where I wanted it, as far as in relation to the center line of the axle tube. So you can kind of see here, it is below the center line. Some people want it at the center line. Basically, when you go, the stock control arm mounting point was like right down here. So I did raise it up quite a bit. However, some people want it at the axle center line. I originally had it at the axle center line, but when I'm making pinion adjustments, I don't want this to go above the axle center line. So as a safety, I just made it below the axle center lines. So if I have to tilt this back a little bit more to get the center line in, then I can. And I won't be above the axle center line. Or I'm sorry, if I need to tilt this back to get the pinion angle right, I won't still be above the axle center line. So what I did, let me pause here. First thing I did was take a guesstimate on where this needs to be placed with a wheel on. So I'm gonna go grab a wheel and we'll put a wheel on and then do some measurements to see where my tire is gonna hit. Okay, so this is a stock JK wheel. If you go center line of this bead to the edge of this bead to the edge of this bead, it is 7.5 inches wide. Tires I'm gonna be running are 12.5 inches wide. So basically you want to take the center line of this and go out beyond what the wheel would be. So I have 7.5 and 12.5. The difference there is 5 inches. Divide that by 2 because it's going on either side. And we get 2.5 inches. So from the center line here, we have 2.5 inches. So that's where my tire is going to ride, out in here. It's pretty darn close. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I like where the control arm is placed on the frame and on the axle. So I'm going to go with it. In the worst case scenario, I'll have to run a wheel spacer in the rear, which I don't like, but that'll work for now, and then I can correct it later. So the next thing I did, let me get you here. Before I move on, I also want to state that this is probably worst case scenario as far as tire clearance and stuff, because chances are if I go to a different wheel, other than a stock Jeep JK wheel, it's gonna have an offset out. So this is like worst case scenario here. So your mileage might vary, but for me, I'm okay having it tight up against, or, obviously have a little bit of clearance, but I want it to be tight because I want it to be as far out as possible, for stability reasons. All right, next thing I did was I took my tape measure here and just basically found a common point that is there on both sides, which I did this axle flange right here, and basically just looked to the edge of my control arm mount, made a mark at 3 1/4 inches because that's where I found worked best. Again, your mileage might vary. Yours might be 4 inches, yours might be 3 inches. I don't know. This is a custom suspension, so. Then, after that, I figured I wanted to have I couldn't really figure out how to get these the same either side other than with one of these jobbies here, an angle finder. So what I did was I zeroed it on the floor. Zero. Then I just took it and I tried to get about 8 degrees, 7.9 on either side. Once I got that, I tacked it. Good to go. All right, so that establishes where the rear control arm mounts at the axle. Rear lower control arm mounts at the axle. Now, what I did, I took a scrap piece of steel and measured it out and got some old junk bolts, which are still probably good bolts, but I have a bunch of new bolts and these ones were old. And I measured 24 inches, which is what I want my control arm length to be total, center to center. And basically, I put my control arms on there, made sure that they came on and off pretty easy. Then, go back to the axle. Back of the axle, I plugged it in on the axle side since this is already tacked. Then I put my bracket in here, and I put a bolt through it and then lifted it up to the frame. And this is kind of a feel thing. I'm sure that there's a more technical way to do it, but I did it by feel. And that feel was basically where it felt like it was the center line of this here, and the joints and everything was all lined up good. Put it up against the frame and tacked it up here. Now, rinse and repeat on the other side. And basically you get your locations right. So here you can see I measured and I have about 1 1/4 inches here. I measured on this side and I have about 1 1/4 inches. There's about 3/4 of an inch stick out over here. Oop. There's about 3/4 of an inch stick out over here. So that's where I knew I basically had the same mounting points, locations, everything on either side. Granted, this side is actually like 7.5 degrees. I couldn't get it totally perfect. I tried, but I don't think that 0.4 degrees up or down on the axle is going to mean too super duper much. So now the fun part was the upper control arms, And as I was mocking them up, I realized I'm going to have some clearance issues with the upper control arms on the axle. But I think that can be alleviated a little bit with maybe some trimmage and such. But let me show you where I got on this. So this would be kind of the way I did this. Oh, you're looking at me still. Let me turn you around. So here, basically, I zeroed my angle finder on the frame right here, and then I tried to get this close to zero as far as tilting back and forth this way, and then put a magnet across here so that I knew that it was flush with the top here, so I can get a nice good bead in here. On the bottom, I can do the same thing. It's a little bit more down on the bottom, as you can, maybe, hold on. Well, I'm on the stand here. You can see it's hanging a little bit low, but it's not terrible. Now, I got this zeroed, tacked here and here. I didn't do a tack on the lower because I want to try to finesse the lower a little bit in more. But then you can see, for those of you using 3/4 inch heims on the front, or on your upper links, or any of your links, so steering, whatever, whatever size PVC this is. Hold on, let me see if I can find it for you. Oh, there you go. 3/4 inch PVC makes a really good, just get a 3/4 16 tap the end of it, makes a pretty good mock-up link. So once I got this, so there was a multiple things going on here. Sorry, kind of getting ahead of myself here. I wanted the upper control arm at the axle, basically the front part, to be even with the front of the truss. For two reasons. A, you can see I'm going to have a little bit of clearance issue right here with the gas tank as it travels up for up travel. But the other part is, depending on, if maybe I want to go to 1.25" links later on, I don't have a lot of clearance down here, so I wanted to be able to have enough that I can get some, it's not binding if I'm at the lowest setting. Granted, I don't know that that's going to happen, but I don't know. This is all trial and error for me. You guys are along the ride with me. So once I got this situated where I wanted it, then I came back here, got my level, did a lot of acrobatics trying to get everything going, flipped the welding hood down, and gave it some tacks here. So that was my rear suspension. Obviously, for the other upper, you gotta do the same thing on the other side. I am going to, and a little bit later on in this video, going to put all these numbers into the triaged link calculator, so we can see if we can get some numbers, especially since we got some adjustable arms, or adjustable mounting points. That would be definitely something I would highly recommend if you're doing a custom suspension, because especially when you have a vehicle frame that's not a tube chassis where you can kind of place stuff where you want it to. When you have a frame, you're kind of limited to where you can go. So if you have adjustability, you can adjust the characteristics of your ride, to better suit your driving style later on down the road. Another few things that I want to talk about. I studied Jake Burkey's 4-link tech and anti-squat and roll axis and all that stuff. And I tried to optimize everything that I got in here. So basically, what you want to do, that you'll get a pretty good system every time, is on your rear axle, there's a few factors here. I'll put some bullet points up. Your lower link angle. no more than 10%. If you read, or I'll link the Jake Burkey's deal in the below here. But basically, this is gives you a little bit smoother of a ride. So, like if this was a short arm, this is my stock control arm point. You can see that angle would be much steeper than this angle. Now, your upper control arm, you want it to be as flat as possible. That's to get a good reading. As the angle gets bigger, your anti-squat gets greater. I believe that's how that works. I'll edit this video if that's not true. But yeah, so basically I have my my links on the lowest on the axle and the highest on the frame, and that gives me the flattest angle. We'll see. Another thing you would like to get, this is optimal thing, is link separation at the axle to be 25% of your tire size. So for me, I am running a 37. That means I need like 9 1/4 inches of separation. Again, I will calculate all this stuff and show you what I have in the computer in the triage deal, but just these are bullet points. And then for the rear axle only, since you don't have to necessarily deal with caster on the rear axle unless you have a rear steer car, which I don't. But if you do not have rear steering, then for pinion angle, you want to have your links as close to the same length as possible. So for me, I had that deal over there. I put my upper links in that. They're 24 inches. I put my lower links in that. They're 24 inches. So once we go to the front, that's a different story. But for the rear, if you don't have rear steering, definitely try to get your upper and lower links the same length. Another thingamajiggy that I forgot that I was reminded when I was prepping to do the front end. So ideally, when you don't have, like if you yourself are putting on a truss, ideally at the correct, at what you deem is the correct pinion angle, which depends on the drive shaft style you have. But regardless, for me, I have a double cardan joint, so I want the pinion to be pointed directly at the center of my transmission or transmission output, transfer case output, whatever you want to call it. Now, if I had not already bought this axle with the truss, I would try to put my truss at 0 degrees or even with the ground when my pinion angle is at what it should be. Let me explain. So as you can see, my truss is slightly angled back. Now my pinion angle is correct though. I have it pointed straight at the back of the transfer case. So this in the back, my angle is slightly there. Now, what that kind of does is as you go higher up in there, you have to extend your link length a little bit. Probably not that crazy, for me at least. I'm not building a ridiculous, crazy, precision Ultra 4 whatever car, which, some of them aren't too precise either. But let's go to the front here. Now with my front, I have an ideal situation here. Where is my here? Okay. I've zeroed my angle majigger on the ground. And I'm, whoop, come on, focus, baby, focus. Woo! I'm at basically 0.2 degrees, so basically flat. Now, with caster, The general consensus is that you want your caster to be somewhere between, I like it to be 4 to 8. 4 is pretty much the minimum. I like it to be, if I had my druthers, it'd be 5 to 8. But issue with JK axles, especially if you don't turn these, and these axles were already built as I got them, I can't necessarily get what I want out of them. So that's zeroed. I have right at 5 degrees. So that's about as minimum as I want, but that's with a flat there. Now, the cool thing is on the front, I can, since this is flat, there's an easier way versus the back since it's already angled. If I need to adjust pinion angle, it's a little bit nicer that I won't have to, especially if I get up in the upper rank of my adjustable control arm mounting points. It'll be easier and less of an angle. Sorry, I'm not eloquent with words today. So I'm gonna get my upper control arm mount, figure out where I want it on the axle, and then I'm gonna move back here, and I already have my upper control arm mount at the frame welded up and ready to go. So now I just have to get my arm ready. Again, 3-inch PVC, or I'm sorry, 3/4 inch PVC, and make it happen. BRB, KK. Okay, I got my link, and I got my brackets. I already did a little bit of research. I got some marks down here. Basically, what I'm doing is just kind of feeling, looking at clearances. I look at the frame clearance right here for this upper. Potential clearance issues in where the header is, which I should be good. I think I should have enough room in there. This is all just guess at this point. So just set it up there. Now I need to show you first how I got this upper link length, and I will show you that right now. All right, so if you watch the Jake Burkey video, I highly recommend you do. He does a lot better explaining than I do. But basically, when you have caster, like on a steering axle, so in most cases it's someone's front axle, you want to maintain that caster, or attempt to maintain that caster throughout the travel, just because of suspension up and down. You don't want to get quirky handling characteristics. So basically, in the front, I have 24-inch lowers. For the upper link, I want to be 70 to 80% of my upper link length. So in this case, my upper link length, I'm going to do 75%, which comes right at 18 inches. Let me turn you around. This bolt and this bolt are 18 inches apart. So let me just throw these dowels on here, like so. Bingo. There's an 18-inch arm. There we go. Now, we we got to go back here to the upper, which I'm not sure how I'm going to film this one, but I'll try to film it as best I can. Okay, so, like I said, hard to film, but what I'm looking for on my deal here is 0. I zeroed it on the floor. Warm. Okay, there's that. Now let me get another tack in here. Another tack. Whoop. All right. Now, my control arms are tacked in place. Sweet dealio. So I only have 2 3/4 inch control arms, or 3/4 inch Heims, but you can see I got the rear done up. Got it done. I think I'm going to put a brace in between these two. As you can see here, there's a little bit of a clearance issue between this part of the gas tank mount and that control arm, so I'm sure I'll have to address that. It does look like there's enough that I might be able to just trim this corner off, like so. Like, here, let me take off my gloves. Exaggeration, but cut it off like that. Got this on. Good here. Got the caster where I wanted it. Got that upper control arm tacked in. I'll probably do some bracing on that as well. So I got the control arms on. For the rear, we can do at this point we can do the link calculator. For the front, I still need to get my track bar, which I need to get I need to get a drag link first for my steering and the steering box and all that stuff to calculate that, but I can guesstimate that. Really, all that's going to affect is my roll center, which I want to be good, but for today's purposes, I am going to just do the link mounting on the deal. So let me go plug in some numbers, and I'll be right back with you. All right, now we are looking at 3-link calculator. And I took the time and plugged all these informations in here. It's fairly self-explanatory, but I'll go through it with you. My wheelbase is going to be 96 inches, tire diameter 37. The tire rolling radius, I'm sure that probably means like what the actual tire diameter is, but I don't know that, but I'm just putting half of 37. My sprung mass, or center of gravity, This is a guesstimation on my part. From what I've read on all the forums and blah, 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 if you're just estimating and you don't have a good way to accurately do that, especially using an LS motor, is to go from the floor to the center line of the cam at the front of the motor. And for me, that was 39.5 inches. Weight, I hope it's not 4,000 pounds, but I'd rather go higher than lower, so we're going 4,000 pounds. All right, so let's going through these numbers. The upper link forward from the rear axle center line. This is basically going to be your link length. Because I put mine in the center, like so, say this blue line is right here. Here, I'll just use my pointer. This blue line is the axle location of the upper control arm mount. And I'm saying that it is centered on the axle. And then moving back, it's 18 inches, roughly. It's at an angle, so there's some calculations in there, but for purposes of this, that's a good judgment. At the axle end, obviously it's 0. It's in the center line of the axle. The Y is from the axle center line to whichever side. So in my case, I have it on the right side. Oh, well, that positive to the left doesn't really make sense, but whatever. I have positive values in here, and looking from the top, see, it looks basically like this would be my motor, this is the rear of the Jeep, so that's where I would have it. From the center line, on the axle end, it's 10 inches over. From the frame end, it's 14 inches over. This is pretty self-explanatory, the height from the ground. So 24 inches at the frame and 22 3/4 at the axle. Lower links, you do the same thing. That's all from the axle center line or from the floor. Plug my numbers in there. In order to get, I know that my my uppers are 20, or my lowers are 24 inches, so I just kind of measured from the center line of the axle, made the difference there. Pretty self-explanatory. The Panhard bar, I basically just guessed this. I put a steering box on there, measured how far it was from the frame, and then I ideally want to have it the same length as my tie rod end, or my drag link. So I measured from the frame end to where my drag link will connect to the steering knuckle, and subtracted the distance that the pitman arm was from the frame. That was what I got, and that was roughly 36 inches. So I want my track bar ideally to be 36 inches. So that comes into play here. And then I just kind of measured that 14 minus 14.5 plus 21.5 gets you 36 inches. Not in real math, but from the axle center line, that's 36 inches. It's 14.5 inches one way and 21.5 the other way, which equates to 36 inches. Then height from the ground, this is just a WAG, wild arse guess. And that's where I got there. So, now the information you've all been waiting for. What will my geometry be? So, on this case, my anti-squat at the lowest settings on the upper links, my anti-squat, like on my mounts, they're the lowest setting would be 98.61%, which is pretty good. That's pretty dang good, especially if I want some adjustment. If I want to adjust it down, I can say if I want my anti-squat to be higher than 100%, I can raise my frame end which would put me right here. So frame end, Z, height from the ground. The Barnes 4-wheel drive brackets are 1 inch in each increment. So let's just say 25. Oh, that's going the wrong way. No, okay. Reverse. I would, if I want to go above 100, hold on, timeout. Okay, back at you. Sorry. My brain was not functioning correctly. So we were at 22.75. In order to increase anti-squat, or actually in the front, we're talking about anti-dive, which is when we go in the brakes and hit the brakes, how much it's going to dive, or like technically if you have 100% or more anti-squat, it might actually raise, which is really weird to think about, but technically we want roughly, for purposes of this, having it right around 100% at nominal is perfect, because then I can adjust it higher or lower depending on which characteristics I want. So if I want to raise my anti-squat to above 100%, on the axle end I would raise it to, you know, say this is 23, so the next, or 22.75, the next one would be 23.75. Now I'm at 117. If I want to lower my anti-squat, so that's 22.75, at the frame end, I can raise that and go, let's go 25. So then I'm at 69%. Rock crawlers with anti-squat, as far as going off-road and stuff, it's a good idea to have roughly... rock crawlers would be good with 100% or more, because you aren't going to really notice at that slow speed the wonky characteristics of having greater than that, and it actually helps you a little bit. But for driving around town and stuff like that, you probably want it less than, so that essentially will, when you hit the brakes, it will dive a little bit. The less percentage, the greater the dive you'll have. Also, when you look at it in the form of suspension, like if you have 100%, that's saying that basically you're not going to do anything. So, which is kind of wonky when you go over a bump or something like that. It's going to do nothing, sort of thing. So sometimes you actually want it to float, so that would be a lower anti-squat number. So, cool stuff. And then another thing to look at is roll center, and this really has to do with the track bar, but with my guesstimations, I just want to show you what it is. So my roll center height is 26 inches, and my mass is 39.5. So in Jake Burkey's video, he basically told you 80 to 100% roll center is good for like rock crawling and off-road, like slow stuff. 60 to 80% is a good all-around rig, which my TJ will be. And then under 60% is hot rod, desert truck, Ultra 4 car sort of thing. So if you do the math on what I what I currently have, we are at 26.13. Divide that by, here, let me bring up my calculator here. All right, got my calculator up here. So we're going to take the roll center height, 26.13, divided that by 39.5 to get a percentage, 66%. So what that tells me is that I'm going to have a stinking hot rod almost towards the lower end of that trail rig, road rig. So
it should be fairly compliant. That'll be pretty sweet. So let's move on to the back end, and I'll show you the numbers that I got with the back end. Okay, so for the rear, I'm getting a little bit of difference here, but that's all right. So I plugged in all my numbers as I did before. Same numbers on this side, basically. I don't know what this unsprung mass is yet, so I'm not too terribly worried about that. My upper links, I have them at the lowest setting, so as you can see, it's actually angled up. In general, when you have this condition where your lower is angled up towards the frame and your upper is angled down towards the frame, you're going to have a greater than 100% anti-squat. So in this case, at the lowest setting, I have a anti-squat of 125%, which is probably going to be great for rock crawling. I don't necessarily want that. So let's, on the frame end, again, if we want to lower our anti-squat, we raise our frame end or lower our axle end, which I can't because I'm already on the lowest setting. So if I raise my frame end, so let's just go to 25. That gets me to 109, okay. And then the highest setting on my frame end would be 26. That gets me to 92%. So in theory, that is the lowest anti-squat I can get out of this setup.
So I'm here down in the Mayhem's Fab Lab editing studio, and I just wanted to update y'all. I nerded out and was trying to think of how I could get my lowest anti-squat number even lower than the 92% that's shown here. And what I came up with was I can take my lower link mount at the frame and lower it by 1 inch by drilling another hole below the other one 1 inch. And in doing so, I can make my static anti-squat be, I think it was around 62%. So not necessarily going to run it there, but I want to have the ability to do that. Because I just like adjustability, you know what I'm saying? So just a little FYI, update y'all on what I got going on there.
Not super ideal. I would like to have a little bit lower anti-squat ability so that I can... The cool thing about anti-squat in the rear is you can tune it with a sway bar. So I probably will still put a Curry anti-rock on there, but I think this is the settings I'm going to start off with, is my frame end at the highest and my axle end at the lowest. So just looking at this also, one thing I haven't mentioned is link separation at the axle. So let's just look at the axle end. So we're at 26.75 and 17.5. So let's just take some maths here on this one. 26.75 minus 17.5. We get 9 1/4 inches of separation, which I think that's good. Let's just take a check. What we want is 25% of our tire diameter. So let's take 37 divided by 25. Or let me redo this here. Clear. 37 times 0.25. We are right at what we need to be in terms of link separation at the axle. So perfect. And it can only go up from there because that's at the lowest setting for the axle end. So cool stuff. In the front end, let's go to the front end and just check it there. 3-link calculator. Doo-doo. So our link separation, upper link is 22.75 minus 16, 6.75. So we don't have a lot of separation at the axle there. Now, let's see what 25. So that's frame end. What if we raise this 23? What just looking at what our so we need another 2 1/4. No, 2 2.5. So crap, I forgot what that cell was. Let's undo. 22.75. So we need another 2.5. So we'll have to go either 2 or 3. So let's go 2 at the axle end. So let's go to 24.75. So doing that brings our anti-squat up above 100%, but that would give us the proper geometry. Another way to combat, let me turn you around here so I can talk to you. So basically that 25% rule of link separation is because your axle's trying to fight stuff, right? So when you go, the pinion's trying to twist the axle up, and basically the more separation you have, the stronger it is. A way to combat that, most people cannot get that amount of separation, especially when you have a frame and you have a body to deal with. Now on a tube buggy, that's a different story. But a way to combat that is to just gusset the crap out of it so that it doesn't move anywhere. Like, it's strong even at 6 3/4 inches of link separation. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to weld the 3-link, upper 3-link tight, and then put some gussets on it. Make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. So, until I get my track bar and everything else, I believe that we are done with the suspension. At least the suspension links. I need to... Sorry. Just getting over a cold or just allergies. Holy cow. Anyways, if I did all my calculations right, I should, with those mock-up links that I have out of PVC, I should be able to send off to Jake Burkey, and I'm going to get some 1 3/4 aluminum upper links made. So I got to measure, get what I need, make sure I have enough adjustment back and forth for pinion change and stuff like that, or pinion angle change. And then I think we should be good. So I'm going to do some maths there, and we're going to see about getting some upper links ordered. After that, I'll be right back to you, and we got to look at doing some bump stops and coil spring mounts and stuff like that. So catch y'all on the flip side. Bye-bye.